We are about to review the Time bikes range. I'm quite excited by this because I honestly hadn't seen a modern Time bike since about 2012. They just sort of disappeared, and I got my hands on some the other day and I was blown away. And next week when I get back from holiday, we're going to have the frames here and we're going to do a full review. But today, it's just like a preliminary review. I want to express some of my thoughts and opinions and get your feedback so that when we do the main review, I've got all your comments to work with as well, and we can really tie that in and get something really comprehensive and meaty together. The community here is fantastic, so I'm really looking forward to your input. I've got a little presentation put together to sort of get the ideas flowing, to sort of see where my mindset's going. And yeah, I want your feedback as well. Have you got one? Do you know someone with one? What's your experience of them? What's your perception of them? And let's see if we can get a really good meaty review together that you won't find on other channels perhaps. I am going to start bizarrely with a look at the Trek Madone, because here is my thought. There tends to be two design approaches. You either start with how I want the bike to look and what I'm trying to appeal to. You start with a blank piece of paper, you get a committee of people together and you say, this is, it needs to look fantastic. It needs to look like a Lamborghini, and it needs to cost this much and it needs to have these features on it. And then you start to get this picture of what it is that you want your bike to look like. And then your challenge is to go to a factory and try and get it made to the price point that the committee decided it should be. And that's generally speaking how this sort of design comes out. And you have to admit it looks like a Lamborghini. In fact, I'm just going to flip to the Lamborghini website. This is what owning a Lamborghini is all about. This is all, edges and flares, and it looks absolutely mental with big spoilers. And if you read through their marketing spiel, it's just like Trek. It's all about the emotions it stirs and the appeal and the design ethos and that sort of thing, just like the Trek Madone. Big shots of these fantastic sort of aerodynamic fairings and everything else. You kind of get the idea. Time, on the other hand, their website is all about the technology. It's all about the resin transfer molding, the use of Dyneema as part of their process, but their models are actually pretty limited, which we'll get onto in a second. Now, as you flip through this, there is so much information on the Time website about the whole carbon manufacturing process that you'll never find on the Trek website about any of their bikes. It's something they're really, really proud of. And this compares, I guess, a little bit to the Koenigsegg website. If you're really into your hypercars and stuff, you scroll through the Koenigsegg website and it's all exactly the same idea. It's really talking about the science and the engineering and their love for that engineering, that pursuit, which kind of gets me to that point about you've got two ends of a spectrum here. You've got one end designed with a vision in mind of how they want it to look and feel and what the customer is and how much it's going to cost. And then on the other side at Time, you've got a factory full of alchemists who are experimenting, and they've come up with a way of creating a carbon fiber manufacturing process using Dyneema and resin transfer molding and whatever. And then they go, oh, maybe we should make a bike out of this. So, and then we've got all the other bike brands in between those two extremes, I think. So I think when we're looking at a Time bike, it's definitely going to appeal to a certain type of rider who really appreciates the engineering, the story, the craftsmanship, and not necessarily to the same customer that a Trek is going to appeal to, who's all about that look and that experience and stuff. So I'm going to flip into the range and then show you where I'm going with the rest of this. So this is the Time bike range. They essentially have three products: the ADHX, the Alpe d'Huez, and the Skylon. These ones here are fairly old and they're going to be redundant fairly soon. The one that they've just announced is the ADHX, the Alpe d'Huez. This is their classic road bike, and this probably compares to a Giant TCR, a Trek Monda, that sort of thing. It's the classic 73 degrees, skinny tubes. It's that sort of a road bike. Very, very classic looking. Their Skylon, which is their aero bike, I have to say is looking a little bit dated now. And if you compare that to a Trek Madone, it's definitely looking very dated. But I don't think we can really compare this to something like a Madone or a Cannondale System 6, that really slippery looking aero bike that they have, or even a Specialized Diverge. This is probably more like the sort of the modern generation of the Cannondale Super 6, the BMC Team Machine, those sort of things where the aerodynamics has been fed into what was essentially their traditional road bike. But I think this is still looking a little bit dated with the seat clamp design, where the cables run. I think this is going to have an update fairly soon. And then you have the ADHX, which is their gravel bike, and the gravel bike probably looks more like an endurance road bike than it does a gravel bike at the moment. It only takes up to 38C tyres, which is pretty skinny by today's standards, those sort of things. So there you can see probably the clash that's going on here between, we've got this fantastic engineering approach and now we need to make a bike out of it, whereas the major brands are really reading the market, trying to be progressive, and they can be because they've got more designs to sort of feed out there, and giving us more and more options and sort of throwing stuff at the wall and see what works. Where I guess Time are taking that approach of the fuck about and find out, which is in the factory, mixing carbon in a certain way and weaving things in a different way, and how do we get resin in there, and then go, maybe we need to make a bike out of this at some point. So yeah, we've definitely got two ends of the spectrum is how I see. So I'm really excited by this because it looks to me like Time bikes is a bit like a phoenix arising from the ashes. That looks like they're starting to get their act together again, and they've still got that fantastic factory and all the people that work there, and it looks like the new management structure are starting to get those new models out and starting to tell that story. And I'm expecting some interesting things. Now, I have to say, on the Time website, cost is what we're going to talk about next, is these prices are wrong in the UK. They're sort of going on a dollar conversion. They don't import taxes, but just to give you an idea, the ADHX, the retail in the UK is 3,349. The Alpe d'Huez, which is probably going to be their best-selling model, is 3,299 in the UK, and the Skylon is 4,199. So is that expensive? Well, yeah, but let's have a look at the Trek Domane. And if you were to try and buy a Trek Domane SLR frame, £4,900. What? I think there's definitely some overinflation of prices on there to try and show the value of the full builds. Even their base range is 2,450. Mental. What about Specialized? This is just incredible. These are £4,500 for an S-Works frame. I mean, this is an aluminium. That's probably one of the best value frames out there at the moment. That's such a good bike for that. But anyway, Cannondale, just as bad when you look at their frames. Super 6 High Mod Evo, 3,750. If you want the Lab 71, colours, 4,750. So are they expensive? Well, I don't know. This is where I'm hoping that you guys are going to put something into the comments and start stirring that discussion. Yes, you probably can go to the Canyon website and buy yourself a carbon road bike, probably with some sort of 105 Ultegra group set, for less than the price of a Time frame. Probably definitely go to the Dolan website and get a Dolan bike fully built with God knows what on it for that sort of money. So in that terms, yes, they are expensive. If you're comparing them to even the mainstream brands, they seem fairly cheap. Compare it to something that you'd consider premium, like a Cipollini or Prali or something, then I think they definitely seem fantastic value. But at the moment, maybe they only appeal to a relatively small minority of riders because of that geometry. Anyway, over to you. In the main review, we're going to take these frames to pits. We're going to get inside. I'm going to measure everything. I really want to show you some really close-up shots I've been playing around with the cameras to make sure I can really show you the detail, because some of it is mind-blowing on these time frames. Really want to make sure I do it justice by showing you exactly what it is that you're getting, because the shots on the Time website really don't do it justice. They've got so much more to tell you. I was blown away by the quality of the dropouts. Alone blew my mind. The dropouts look better than those Campagnolo carbon cranks. They're just so beautifully made. I can't wait to tell you guys about it, basically. All right, get into the comments and we'll pick this up in about a week's time. Cheers.